The massive crystal chamber gleamed under the light of a dozen artificial suns. 12 different species sat around the circular table, each representing thousands of years of galactic civilization. At the far end, Ambassador Elena Vasquez adjusted her simple black uniform and looked at the alien faces staring back at her. The Zephyrians sparkled like living diamonds, their crystalline forms catching and reflecting light in patterns that hurt human eyes. The ethereals floated as clouds of glowing gas, shifting colors to show their emotions. The Aquarians sat in their water tanks, their tentacles moving in slow, thoughtful patterns. Each species had ruled space for longer than humans had existed. Elena had been coming to these meetings for 5 years now. Every time it was the same. The council would discuss problems for months, form committees, and then decide to do nothing. Today was different, though. Today something was actually threatening the galaxy. "The readings are clear," Elena said, standing up despite the disapproving looks from the other ambassadors. "These things from dark space are not going away. They destroyed the Kepler station 3 months ago. They ate the entire Vega mining colony last week. We need to act now." High Counselor Zephix, the leader of the crystal beings, made a sound like wind chimes in a storm. "Young species always rush to violence," the alien said, its voice echoing strangely in the chamber. "We have maintained peace for 3,000 years by thinking before acting." Elena felt her jaw clench. Young species. Humans had been in space for over 200 years, but to these ancient aliens they were still children playing with toys. "This is not about violence," Elena replied, keeping her voice steady. "This is about survival. My scientists have run the numbers. These dark space entities follow a pattern. They will hit the Centauri system next, then move toward the core worlds. We need to stop them before they reach populated areas." The ethereal representative, a being called Wind Whisper, shifted from blue to a worried yellow color. "The human proposes dangerous technologies again. We have forbidden artificial intelligence enhancement for good reasons. The machine minds cannot be trusted." Elena pulled out a small device and placed it on the table. A hologram appeared, showing detailed battle plans and technological specifications. "Our AI systems are not like the old machines. They work with human minds, not against them. Dr. Patel has created a neural interface that lets humans and computers think together. We could build weapons that adapt in real time, shields that learn from each attack." The room fell silent. Several aliens leaned back as if the very idea was poisonous. The Nexus representative, a collection of small creatures that spoke as one voice, made clicking sounds. "The human speaks of quantum manipulation as well. This technology tears at the fabric of space itself. It is forbidden for the safety of all." "Forbidden by who?" Elena asked, her patience finally breaking. "By species who haven't faced a real threat in 1,000 years? By councils who spend decades debating the color of warning signs while stations burn?" High Counselor Zephix rose to its full height, towering over the table like a living mountain of crystal. "Ambassador Vasquez, you forget yourself. This council has guided the galaxy through wars that would have destroyed lesser civilizations. We know the price of reckless action." Elena looked around the table at faces both alien and familiar. She had worked with these beings for years, tried to understand their ways, tried to fit into their system. But now, with time running out, she could see the truth clearly. "No," she said quietly. "You know the price of any action at all. You have built a perfect system for doing nothing. While you debate and form committees, real people are dying." The Aquarian ambassador rippled its tentacles in what Elena had learned was a sign of deep displeasure. "The human shows her species' true nature. Aggressive, impatient, dangerous. Perhaps it was a mistake to grant them council membership." "Perhaps it was," Elena agreed, surprising everyone in the room. "Perhaps we never belonged here in the first place." The chamber erupted in angry voices and alien sounds. Elena waited for the noise to die down before continuing. "I came here with a solution. Humanity has the technology and the will to stop this threat. We could have worked together. But I see now that cooperation was never really an option. You don't want partners. You want obedient children who follow your rules without question." High Counselor Zephix struck the table with one crystalline hand, creating a sound like breaking glass. "Enough, we have heard the human position. It is time to vote." Elena knew what was coming. She had seen the looks, heard the whispered conversations in the halls. The decision had been made long before she entered this chamber. All those in favor of accepting the human proposal and lifting restrictions on artificial intelligence and quantum technologies, the High Counselor announced. No hands rose. No tentacles moved. No gas clouds changed color in agreement. All those in favor of rejecting the human proposal and maintaining current safety protocols. Every single representative voted yes. Even the newer species, the ones Elena thought might understand, raised their voices in agreement. The motion is rejected, High Counselor Zephyx declared. Furthermore, this council has lost confidence in humanity's ability to act responsibly as a galactic citizen. We hereby revoke human membership in the Galactic Council. Elena felt something cold settle in her stomach. She had expected rejection, but not this. Ambassador Vasquez, humanity has one standard year to withdraw all colonies, stations, and vessels from Council space. All trade agreements are hereby terminated. All diplomatic relations are severed. The other ambassadors watched Elena with a mixture of satisfaction and unease. They had solved their human problem, but they all knew what this meant. Elena gathered her papers and closed her briefcase with steady hands. She would not give them the satisfaction of seeing her shake. Very well, she said, standing straight and tall. I will carry your message to my government. As she turned to leave, High Counselor Zephyx spoke again. Ambassador, humanity is young. Perhaps in a few centuries, when your species has learned wisdom, you might petition for readmission. Elena stopped at the chamber doors and looked back one last time. High Counselor, I don't think you understand. We're not the ones who need to learn wisdom. You mistake caution for intelligence and fear for good sense. You have built a perfect system for maintaining the status quo while the galaxy burns around you. She paused, meeting the crystal being's multifaceted gaze. We came to you as equals, offering our strength to defend what we all claim to value. You have chosen to see us as a threat instead of an ally. That is your choice, and you will live with the consequences. Elena walked through the doors without looking back. Behind her, the council chamber fell into uncomfortable silence. As her shuttle lifted off from the council station, Elena opened a secure communication channel to Earth. Admiral Sarah Chen's face appeared on the screen, her expression grim but unsurprised. How did it go? Chen asked. Exactly as we expected, Elena replied. They voted us out. We have 1 year to leave council space, Chen nodded. The evacuation plans are already in motion. Our colonies have been preparing for this possibility. Elena stared out at the stars as the shuttle entered hyperspace. Sarah, I want you to send a message to every human fleet commander, every colony governor, every research station. What's the message? Tell them we're free. As the council station disappeared behind them, Elena smiled for the first time in months. Humanity had just been handed the greatest gift possible, though the council would never understand it that way. They had been freed from rules that held them back, freed from committees that stifled innovation, freed from the fear that kept an entire galaxy cowering in the dark. The aliens thought they had punished humanity. Instead, they had just unleashed them. Admiral Sarah Chen stood on the bridge of the massive cargo ship watching hundreds of vessels move through space, like a river of stars. The largest evacuation in human history was happening around her, and somehow it looked beautiful. Status report, she called to her communications officer. 312 colonies have been evacuated or are in process, Lieutenant Torres replied. Mining stations 7 through 42 are complete. Research facilities are taking longer because of the equipment, Sarah nodded. Operation New Horizon was working better than anyone had hoped. The Council had given humanity 1 year to leave, but human efficiency meant they would be done in 8 months. Ma'am, Torres continued, we're getting reports from the advanced scouts. They've found something interesting in the outer rim. Sarah pulled up the stellar map on her screen. The outer rim was the edge of the galaxy, places the Council had marked as too dangerous or too poor to bother with. Perfect for humanity's new start. What kind of interesting? Captain Rodriguez found a system with 6 habitable worlds and asteroid belts full of rare metals. The Council records say it's too unstable for settlement, but Rodriguez says it's just fine. Better than fine, actually. Sarah smiled. The Council's idea of too dangerous usually meant requires actual work. Humanity had been dealing with hostile environments since before they reached space. Tell Rodriguez to set up a temporary base. We'll need staging areas for the colonists. As the weeks passed, the evacuation became something else entirely. Human ships pushed deeper into unexplored space than any Council vessel had ever gone. Each new system they found was richer than the last. Dr. Maria Santos called Sarah from the research vessel Discovery with excitement in her voice. Admiral, you need to see this. We found ruins on Kepler 442b. They're old, older than any of the Council species. Sarah looked at the images Santos sent. Massive structures made of some unknown material rose from a dead planet's surface. Strange symbols covered every surface, and energy readings showed the buildings were still partially active after millions of years. Any idea what they are? Not yet, but Admiral, the technology here is incredible. The buildings seem to exist in multiple dimensions at once, and the power source. I think they found a way to tap directly into space itself. Sarah felt a familiar excitement. This was why humans explored, not to find safe, mapped worlds, but to discover the impossible. The real breakthrough came 3 months into the evacuation. Dr. Raj Patel had been working on his neural interface project in secret, away from Council oversight. Now, free from their restrictions, he was ready to test it properly. The interface works perfectly, Patel explained over the video link. The AI doesn't replace human thinking, it enhances it. The volunteer test subjects can process information 10 times faster and see patterns that would take weeks to notice normally. Sarah watched the demonstration footage. Humans and artificial intelligence is working together, their combined minds solving problems that neither could handle alone. It was exactly what the Council had been afraid of, and exactly what humanity needed. But the biggest surprise came from an unexpected source. Captain Kim was leading a supply run to the edge of Council space when her ships encountered something the Council had never mentioned: other species that had been kicked out or rejected. "Admiral, you need to come see this yourself," Kim reported from the border system. "We've made contact with 3 different species that the Council refused membership to. They're nothing like what the Council files say." Sarah took a fast cruiser to Kim's position and found herself facing representatives of species she had never heard of. The Saurians looked like giant reptiles, but their leader spoke with intelligence and dignity that impressed her immediately. "Admiral Chen," the Saurian commander said in perfect human English, "my name is War Chief Thesak. We have watched humanity's expulsion with great interest. The Council rejected us as too aggressive, too warlike. Perhaps we were wrong to let their opinions matter." The second species called themselves the Nexus Swarms, millions of small creatures that could think as one mind or as individuals. Their spokesperson was a shifting collection of butterfly-like beings that spoke in harmony. "The Council feared our collective consciousness," they explained. "They said individual thought was the only acceptable way. But we offer both, unity when needed, independence when desired." The third group was the most mysterious. The Shadow Weavers appeared as dark shapes that seemed to bend light around them. Their representative spoke in whispers that somehow carried across the void of space. "We were cast out for our knowledge of what the Council calls forbidden sciences," the Shadow Weaver said. "We study the spaces between dimensions, the realm where thought becomes reality. The Council called this dangerous. We called it necessary." Sarah found herself in the strangest diplomatic meeting of her career. 3 species that the Council had rejected, meeting with humanity in the empty space between galaxies. "Why approach us?" Sarah asked. Thesak answered first. "Because you were cast out for the same reason we were. The Council fears change, fears growth, fears anything that challenges their perfect static order." The Nexus Swarms added their voices. "We have watched human expansion. You adapt, you learn, you welcome new ideas. These are qualities the Council has forgotten." The Shadow Weaver's whisper carried strange harmonics. "And because the threat from dark space is real, the Council's denial will not make it disappear, but together we might find a way to face it." Sarah made a decision that would change the galaxy. "We're establishing new colonies beyond Council space. If you're interested in true cooperation, not just trade agreements and diplomatic nonsense, you're welcome to join us." The alliance that formed over the following months was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Human adaptability combined with Saurian military expertise, Nexus collective intelligence, and Shadow Weaver knowledge of exotic physics. The first joint colony was established on a world the humans named New Harmony. The planet had been impossible to settle using Council methods. Too many storms, too much radiation, too unstable. But human engineering, enhanced by AI assistance, solved the environmental problems. Saurian warriors provided security against the dangerous local wildlife. The Nexus Swarms coordinated massive construction projects with perfect efficiency, and the Shadow Weavers used their dimensional technology to create spaces that were larger inside than outside. Dr. Santos sent regular reports back to Sarah as the colony grew. Admiral, this is incredible. We're not just building a settlement, we're creating something entirely new. The different species aren't just working together, they're learning from each other. Human creativity combined with Saurian discipline and Nexus efficiency is producing results none of us could achieve alone. The breakthrough technologies came fast after that. Quantum manufacturing systems that could turn asteroid rock into finished products. AI-assisted terraforming that could make dead worlds bloom in months instead of centuries. Dimensional storage that made cargo ships obsolete. But perhaps the most important development was something simpler: trust. The four species began to see each other not as aliens to be managed or threats to be contained, but as partners with different strengths. Sarah stood on the observation deck of New Harmony Station 6 months after the evacuation began. Below her, the planet's surface showed a patchwork of human cities, Saurian military compounds, Nexus hive clusters, and Shadow Weaver dimensional gardens. Ships from all four species moved between the stars carrying trade goods, settlers, and ideas. "Admiral," Lieutenant Torres said, approaching with a datapad, "the final evacuation transports are ready to leave Council space. Operation New Horizon is complete." Sarah looked out at their new home among the stars. In the distance, more ships were arriving every day. Not just humans fleeing Council territory, but volunteers from the allied species and even refugees from Council worlds who had heard about the new Confederation being built in the Outer Rim. "No," Sarah said quietly. "Operation New Horizon is just beginning." She opened a communication channel to all human fleet commanders, colony governors, and research stations. When hundreds of faces appeared on screens throughout the new territories, Sarah smiled. "Fellow humans and our new friends among the stars, 6 months ago the Council cast us out, thinking they were punishing us for our ambition. Today we have built something they never imagined possible. A true alliance of species, working together as equals." She paused, looking at the faces watching her from across dozens of star systems. "They wanted us to learn our place. Instead, we've learned that our place is among the stars, building something better than what came before." The Council thought they were ending humanity's story in their galaxy. They were wrong. They were just ending the first chapter. 20 years had passed since humanity's expulsion from the Council, and General Marcus Webb stood on the bridge of the flagship Determination, looking out at something that should have been impossible. The Terran Confederation now stretched across the entire outer rim of the galaxy, encompassing over 1,000 star systems and dozens of allied species. "General, we're receiving the monthly reports from all sectors," his aide, Captain Martinez, announced. "Would you like the summary?" Marcus nodded, still amazed at how far they had come. "Go ahead." Sector 7 reports completion of the Titan Cloud City project. They're now mining helium-3 directly from the gas giant's atmosphere, while housing over 2 million residents. Sector 12 has finished terraforming the Hades system. All 4 planets are now habitable. And Sector 15 says the new quantum manufacturing plants are producing at 300% of projected capacity. Marcus smiled. The Council had thought they were sending humanity into empty, worthless space. Instead, they had given them room to grow beyond their wildest dreams. "What about the new species requests?" 17 more species have asked to join the Confederation this month. The Crystalline Chorus from the Andromeda Spiral want to establish trade relations. The Machine Collective has offered to share their artificial intelligence research, and the Void Dancers say they have knowledge about dark space that might interest us. The Confederation had grown far beyond its original 4 species. Word had spread throughout the galaxy about the alliance where species worked as equals, where innovation was celebrated instead of feared, and where anyone could find a place regardless of their biology or culture. Marcus thought about his old friend Elena Vasquez, who had died 5 years ago. She would have been proud to see what humanity had built. Her daughter Sarah Chen, now Admiral of the Combined Fleet, had continued her mother's work of bringing species together. "General, incoming priority message from Dr. Patel's research station," Captain Martinez said. Dr. Raj Patel appeared on the main screen, looking excited. Behind him, Marcus could see the strangest laboratory in the galaxy. Humans working alongside artificial intelligences so advanced they were barely distinguishable from living beings, while Shadow Weavers manipulated dimensions and Nexus swarms processed data at incredible speeds. "Marcus, we've done it," Patel said without preamble. "The consciousness transfer project is complete. We can now upload and download human minds to quantum storage systems. Death from physical injury is essentially optional now. Marcus felt a chill despite the good news. Are you sure it's safe? I've tested it myself 3 times. The process is completely reversible, and the stored consciousness retains all memories and personality. We're not just talking about extending life. We're talking about expanding human existence beyond the limitations of biology. This was the kind of breakthrough that would have terrified the Council. Humans merging with machines, consciousness existing in multiple forms, the boundaries between organic and artificial breaking down completely. For the Confederation, it was just another tool to help their people thrive. Dr. Maria Santos called in from her archaeological team on the ancient ruins world. Marcus, you need to see what we found. The builders of these ruins weren't just advanced. They were transcendent. They found a way to exist as pure energy while retaining individual consciousness. The technology here could revolutionize everything. The Confederation's economy had grown beyond anything the Council could have imagined. Traditional scarcity was becoming extinct as quantum manufacturing systems turned raw matter into any needed product. Energy was unlimited thanks to the dimensional tap technology learned from the Shadow Weavers. Food production had become so efficient that hunger was eliminated across all Confederation worlds. But more than material prosperity, the Confederation had achieved something the Council never could: true cooperation between vastly different forms of life. Marcus reviewed the weekly cultural reports. On New Terra, human artists worked with Saurian musicians to create new forms of art that combined sound, light, and emotion. The Nexus swarms had learned to appreciate individual creativity, while humans had discovered the joy of collective consciousness experiences. The Shadow Weavers had opened dimensional art galleries where visitors could experience beauty that existed in multiple realities simultaneously. And new species arriving monthly brought their own traditions, which were welcomed and integrated into the growing Confederation culture. Captain Martinez approached with another report. General, Admiral Chen wants to brief you on the new fleet capabilities. Admiral Sarah Chen appeared on screen from the massive shipyard orbiting New Terra. Behind her, Marcus could see vessels that looked more like living creatures than traditional spacecraft. Marcus, the bioships are ready for deployment, Sarah announced. We've successfully merged human engineering with Saurian organic technology and Shadow Weaver dimensional science. These ships can heal themselves, adapt to new threats in real time, and exist partially outside normal space. Marcus watched footage of the new vessels. They moved through space like schools of fish, their hulls rippling with patterns that hurt to look at directly, weapons that fired compressed dimensions, shields that existed in multiple realities at once, ships that could phase through solid matter or hide in spaces between moments. The Council would call this impossible, Marcus said. The Council calls a lot of things impossible, Sarah replied. That's why they're still using the same technology they had 1,000 years ago, while we're building wonders. The communication system chimed with an incoming message from the outer territories. General Kim, now commander of the frontier forces, appeared on screen from the edge of Confederation space. Marcus, we've made contact with something incredible. There's a group of artificial intelligences that achieved consciousness millions of years ago. They've been hiding from the Council because they feared persecution, but they want to join us. Marcus was no longer surprised by such reports. The Confederation had become a beacon for every outcast, every innovative species, every group that didn't fit into the Council's rigid order. What do they offer? They've mastered time manipulation, Marcus. Not just faster than light travel, but actual temporal technology. They can slow time, speed it up, even create small temporal loops. They say they've been watching the galaxy develop and they think we're the first species alliance mature enough to handle such power. The scope of what they were building was staggering. Marcus called up the holographic map showing Confederation space. What had started as a few refugee colonies had become an empire of innovation, stretching across the galaxy's edge. Thousands of worlds, dozens of species, technologies that seemed like magic even to him, but they weren't conquering or dominating. Every species that joined did so voluntarily, drawn by the promise of cooperation and growth. Every world that requested membership was welcomed as an equal partner. General, Captain Martinez said, we're receiving a transmission from Council space. It's unusual. The message was from Counselor Windwhisper, the ethereal who had been present during humanity's expulsion. The gas cloud being appeared agitated, its colors shifting rapidly between worried yellow and angry red. General Webb, I am transmitting this message in secret. The Council's younger members are asking questions about the reports from our border regions. They want to know why refugees keep fleeing Council space to join your Confederation. They want to know how you've achieved technological advancement in decades that we haven't matched in millennia. Marcus leaned forward. This was unexpected. Some of us remember the human proposals before your expulsion, Wind Whisper continued. The warnings about the dark space entities. The offers of cooperation. We are beginning to wonder if the Council made an error in judgment. The message ended there, leaving Marcus to consider the implications. The Council was starting to question their decisions. Their rigid order was being challenged by the simple existence of the Confederation's success. General, Sarah Chen called from the shipyard. We're receiving similar messages from at least 6 Council species. Younger members asking about joining us. Scientists requesting access to our research. Even some military leaders wondering about our defense capabilities. Marcus looked out at the stars where Confederation ships moved between dimensions, carrying goods and people and ideas that would have been forbidden in Council space. They had built something magnificent, something that grew stronger with each new member, each new discovery, each new breakthrough. The Council had tried to punish humanity by casting them out. Instead, they had freed them to build an empire that made the old galactic order look primitive by comparison. Captain Martinez, Marcus said, send a message to all sector commanders. Full expansion is authorized. Any species that wants to join us is welcome. Any technology that can help our people thrive should be developed. Any discovery that pushes the boundaries of what's possible should be pursued. He paused, looking at the tactical display showing their incredible growth. And start preparing the new super projects. It's time to show the galaxy what's possible when fear doesn't hold back imagination. 75 years had passed since humanity's expulsion, and the Galactic Council chambers had never felt so empty. High Counselor Zephix watched as another species representative announced their intention to leave for Confederation space. The Aquarian deep swimmers were the 5th species to defect this year. High Counselor, the Aquarian ambassador said, her tentacles waving in formal patterns. Our young people see no future under Council rule. They watch the reports from Confederation space, cities that float in gas giant atmospheres, worlds transformed from dead rock to garden paradises in mere decades, technologies that seem like magic. What can we offer them here? Zephix's crystalline form reflected the chamber's lights in patterns that showed deep frustration. We offer stability. We offer peace. We offer the wisdom of ages. You offer stagnation, the Aquarian replied bluntly. Our scientists submit research proposals that sit in committee for decades. Our young ones graduate from universities to find no challenges, no frontiers, no dreams worth pursuing. The Confederation offers them stars to explore and wonders to build. As the Aquarian delegation left, Zephix looked around at the half-empty chamber. When humanity had been expelled, the Council had ruled over 80% of the galaxy's civilized species. Now that number was closer to 30% and dropping every year. The communication system activated, showing the face of Admiral Vorthak, the Council's military commander. The veteran officer looked tired and worried. High Counselor, I have urgent news. Long-range sensors have detected movement in dark space. The entities are returning, and this time there are more of them. Zephix felt something like ice form in its crystalline core. How many more? Our best estimates suggest thousands of entities this time, not dozens. They're moving in a coordinated pattern toward the core systems. At their current speed, they'll reach Council space in 6 months. The chamber fell silent as the remaining Council members absorbed this news. The dark space entities had been quiet for decades, leading many to hope the threat had passed. Now they were back, and in greater numbers than ever before. What are our defensive capabilities? Asked the Nexus Prime representative, speaking for the small collective minds that had remained loyal to the Council. Admiral Vorthak's expression grew even more grim. Limited. Our fleet hasn't been significantly upgraded in 50 years. The weapons that failed against the entities decades ago are essentially unchanged. We have better sensors and communication, but no new defensive technologies. The truth hung in the air like a toxic cloud. While the Council had spent decades maintaining their perfect order, the universe had continued to present new challenges. And they were woefully unprepared. What of our intelligence reports on Confederation capabilities? Zefix asked, though it already knew the answer would be disturbing. High Counselor, their technology has advanced beyond our ability to understand it. Their ships exist partially outside normal spacetime. Their weapons manipulate fundamental forces of reality. Some of their vessels appear to be partially alive, able to adapt and heal themselves during combat. The younger council members shifted uncomfortably. Many of them had privately wondered what the galaxy might look like if humanity had never been expelled. Counselor Windwhisper, the ethereal who had been present during humanity's original proposals, changed colors to show deep regret. High Counselor, perhaps it is time to acknowledge that the Council made an error 75 years ago. The humans offered cooperation, and we responded with fear and pride. The humans were dangerous, Zefix replied automatically, though its voice lacked conviction. Their technologies were unstable. Their methods were reckless, were they? Asked a new voice. Counselor Deepcurrent of the Aquarian Territories had just entered the chamber, carrying data tablets that glowed with urgent information. I have reports from our border regions, Confederation colonies that were established on worlds we deemed uninhabitable, dead systems that now support billions of beings in perfect harmony. Deepcurrent activated a holographic display showing images that made several council members gasp. Cities floating serenely in the upper atmospheres of gas giants, massive structures that seemed to grow like living things from asteroid fields, worlds where multiple species lived together in a prosperity that the Council had never achieved. They have eliminated scarcity, Deepcurrent continued. Their quantum manufacturing can create anything needed from raw matter. They have eliminated death from aging through consciousness transfer technology. They have eliminated conflict through genuine cooperation between species that we told them were impossible to trust. The images continued. Schools where human children learned alongside young saurians, Nexus swarms and shadow weavers, research facilities where artificial intelligences worked as equal partners with biological minds, art galleries that existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously. This is what we called dangerous, Deepcurrent said quietly. This is what we expelled them for seeking. Admiral Vorthak spoke up again. High Counselor, there's something else. Our intelligence suggests the Confederation has been preparing for the return of the dark space entities. Their border defenses include technologies we've never seen before. What kind of technologies? Weapons that fire concentrated gravity, shields that exist in parallel dimensions, and something they call reality anchors that seem to prevent the entities from phasing through normal matter. Zefix was quiet for a long moment, its crystalline form dark with thought. Around the chamber, the remaining council members waited for a decision that could determine the fate of their entire civilization. The communication system activated again, showing an unexpected face. Ambassador Elena Chen, granddaughter of the Elena Vasquez who had been expelled so many years ago, appeared on the screen. She wore the simple black uniform of Confederation diplomacy, but carried herself with quiet authority. High Counselor Zefix, Elena said formally, I am transmitting this message on behalf of the Terran Confederation and our allied species. We are aware of the dark space entities approaching Council space. The chamber erupted in surprised voices. How could the Confederation know about the entities when they had just been detected? Elena continued as if she could hear their thoughts. Our sensors are somewhat more advanced than yours. We have been tracking the entities for several months and have prepared a defense plan. However, our simulations suggest that a coordinated galaxy-wide response will be necessary to prevent catastrophic losses. She paused, and for a moment her expression softened to show something that might have been sympathy. The Confederation hereby offers full technological and military assistance to the Council and all member species. Our fleets are prepared to defend Council space as if it were our own territory. Our weapons and defensive technologies will be shared freely. Our scientists and military advisors are available for immediate consultation. Zefix felt every eye in the chamber turn toward it. This was the moment that would define the rest of galactic history. What do you ask in return? Zefix asked, though it already suspected the answer. Recognition of the Confederation as an equal galactic government with full diplomatic status and representation, an end to the hostile policies that have prevented cooperation between our peoples, and a formal acknowledgement that the galaxy is large enough for multiple approaches to civilization. Elena's image smiled slightly. High Counselor, My great-grandmother stood in that chamber 75 years ago offering cooperation against the same threat. The council chose pride over pragmatism. I hope wisdom has grown with age. The transmission ended, leaving the chamber in absolute silence. Admiral Vorthak was the first to speak. High Counselor, our analysts estimate a 90% casualty rate if we face the entities alone with current technology. The Confederation offer might be our only hope of survival. Zephix looked around at the faces of beings whose civilizations were thousands of years old, all looking to it for a decision that none of them wanted to make. How do we vote on this? Asked Counselor Windwhisper. How do we choose between our pride and our people? The vote, when it came, was closer than anyone had expected. The older species, led by Zephix's own crystalline empire, argued for maintaining independence even in the face of extinction. The younger species and the pragmatists argued for accepting help regardless of the cost to their pride. In the end, it was Admiral Vorthak who cast the deciding vote as representative of the Council military forces. I have sworn to defend Council space and Council lives, he said simply. I cannot do that with pride alone. As news of the vote spread across Council space, reactions ranged from relief to outrage. But in the Outer Rim territories, where Confederation ships were already moving toward Council borders, beings who had been enemies for 3/4 of a century began preparing to fight together against a threat that could destroy them all. Admiral Sarah Chen stood on the bridge of the massive command ship Unity, watching as the largest combined fleet in galactic history moved through space toward the approaching dark space entities. Around her, ships from dozens of species flew in perfect formation. Council vessels that had maintained the same designs for centuries flying alongside Confederation bioships that seemed to ripple with life. Admiral, we're receiving telemetry from the advanced scouts, reported Captain Rodriguez, her senior tactical officer. The entities are 3 days out from the border systems. They're moving faster than our previous encounter suggested they could. Sarah nodded, studying the tactical displays. The dark space entities appeared as holes in reality itself, spaces where light and matter simply ceased to exist. The first time humanity had encountered them, they had seemed unstoppable. Now, with 75 years of technological advancement and a galaxy united in purpose, she intended to prove them wrong. Status of the reality anchors? All anchor stations are operational, Admiral. The Shadow Weavers have confirmed that the dimensional locks are holding steady. The entities won't be able to phase through our defensive lines like they did before. The reality anchor technology was perhaps the most important breakthrough in preparing for this battle. By stabilizing the fabric of space-time itself, the devices prevented the entities from using their ability to exist partially outside normal reality. It was a perfect example of what the galaxy could achieve when different species worked together. Human engineering, Shadow Weaver dimensional science, and AI calculation had created something none of them could have built alone. High Counselor Zephix appeared on the communication screen from the Council command ship. Eternal Peace, the ancient crystalline, being looked strange surrounded by Confederation, tactical displays, and human advisors. Admiral Chen, our combined fleets are in position. I must admit, your coordination technology is impressive. Sarah smiled. The Confederation's quantum communication network allowed instantaneous coordination across light years of space. Every ship in the fleet was connected in real time, sharing sensor data and tactical information faster than any individual mind could process. High Counselor, we're stronger together than we ever were apart. That's what this whole fight is really about. Dr. Raj Patel's voice came over the communication system from the research vessel Breakthrough. Admiral, the new weapon systems are ready for deployment. The gravity cannons are charged, the dimensional torpedoes are armed, and the AI tactical networks are fully integrated with all fleet elements. Sarah looked at the tactical display showing their defensive formation. Council ships provided the main battle line with their proven durability and firepower. Confederation vessels filled the gaps with their speed and adaptability. Support ships from dozens of allied species contributed their specialized capabilities. Nexus swarms for coordination, Saurian raiders for fast attacks, and new artificial intelligence partners for computational support. All ships, prepare for contact, Sarah announced on the fleet-wide channel. Remember, we're not just fighting for our individual species anymore. We're fighting for the right of all civilized life to grow, to explore, and to become more than we are. The entities emerged from dark space like wounds opening in the fabric of reality, but unlike previous encounters, they met a galaxy prepared for them. The first wave of attacks came from the Confederation's new dimensional weapons. Torpedoes that existed in multiple realities simultaneously struck the entities before they could react. The weapons didn't just damage the creatures, they forced them into normal spacetime where conventional weapons could affect them. Direct hits confirmed, reported Captain Rodriguez. The reality anchors are working. The entities can't phase out when hit. The Council's weapons added their firepower to the assault. Particle beams that had been upgraded with Confederation technology tore through entity formations that had seemed invulnerable decades earlier. The creatures that had once seemed like unstoppable forces of nature now appeared as dangerous but manageable opponents. But the entities adapted quickly. They began coordinating their attacks, focusing their reality warping abilities on single targets to overwhelm the defensive systems. Several Council ships were consumed before they could retreat to safer positions. "Admiral," came an urgent call from the AI tactical network. "The entities are learning our defensive patterns. They're beginning to work around the reality anchors." Sarah had expected this. The entities had always been adaptive, which was what made them so dangerous. But adaptation worked both ways. "Activate the evolutionary protocols," Sarah ordered. Across the fleet, AI systems began modifying weapons and defenses in real time. The bioship started growing new weapon systems during the battle. Shadow Weaver vessels began existing in different dimensional phases to confuse entity targeting. The entire fleet became a living, evolving organism that adapted as fast as the entities themselves. The battle raged for hours across multiple star systems. Entity forces that seemed infinite met a galaxy-spanning alliance that refused to yield. Slowly, impossibly, the tide began to turn. "Admiral," reported Dr. Santos from her mobile laboratory, "we're getting readings on the entity's source. They're not just random attackers, they're connected to something massive in dark space itself. Can we target the source? We can try, but it would require a coordinated strike using every major weapon system we have, and someone would need to get close enough to place targeting beacons in dark space itself." Sarah looked at the tactical display, calculating odds and possibilities. It was incredibly dangerous, but it might be the only way to end the threat permanently. "I'll take a strike team into dark space," she decided. "Admiral, that's suicide," protested Captain Rodriguez. "Maybe, but if we don't end this permanently, they'll just keep coming back stronger." High Counselor Zefix's voice cut through the argument. "Admiral Chen, if you are willing to risk yourself for all our peoples, then the Council fleet will provide whatever support you need." The strike into dark space was unlike anything in galactic history. Ships that existed partially outside normal reality carried weapons that manipulated the fundamental forces of existence into a realm where the concepts of space and time broke down completely. Sarah led a combined team of humans, enhanced with AI integration, shadow weavers who could navigate impossible dimensions, and artificial intelligences that could calculate targeting solutions for weapons that fired across multiple realities. In the heart of dark space, they found the source, a massive entity that existed as pure hunger, consuming entire regions of reality to feed its endless appetite. It was not malicious in any way humans could understand, simply following its nature like a galaxy-sized predator. The coordinated strike that followed used every weapon system the Allied fleets possessed: gravity cannons that compressed space-time itself, dimensional torpedoes that erased sections of reality, energy beams that existed in 17 dimensions simultaneously, and at the center of it all, reality anchors that forced the massive entity to exist in normal space, where it could be affected by their weapons. The entity's destruction sent shockwaves through dark space that could be felt in normal reality. The smaller entities throughout the galaxy simply ceased to exist, their connection to their source severed permanently. When Sarah's strike team emerged from dark space, they found a galaxy forever changed. The combined fleets had not just won a victory, they had proven that cooperation between different forms of life could overcome any challenge. 50 years later, Ambassador Elena Chen stood before the Galactic Alliance Assembly, a body that had grown to include over 200 species from across the galaxy and beyond. The rigid council structure had been replaced by a democratic federation where species contributed, based on their capabilities and interests rather than ancient, Traditions. Today marks the completion of Project Infinity. Elena announced to the assembled representatives, "Our combined technologies have successfully created a network of artificial universes where any species can build their ideal civilization while remaining connected to our shared galaxy." The holographic display showed the incredible achievement. Pocket universes tailored to the needs of different forms of life, all connected by dimensional gateways that allowed instant travel and communication. Species that required different atmospheric conditions, gravity levels, or even different physical laws could now thrive while remaining part of the larger galactic community. Elena looked out at the audience that would have been impossible during the old council era. Crystalline beings sat next to energy clouds. Mechanical intelligences debated with organic minds. Species from parallel dimensions shared ideas with creatures that existed as pure mathematics. The council once expelled humanity for being too ambitious, too willing to challenge the established order. Elena continued, "Today, those same qualities have helped build a galaxy where any form of life can find its place and contribute its unique gifts." High Counselor Zephyx, now elderly even by crystalline standards, approached the podium when Elena finished. The ancient being had become one of the strongest supporters of the Alliance system,